What up, yo? It's the Arcitype. I live up in Boston, and it's an amazing town full of just amazing different people, and like I can just walk around the city and get inspiration from that. But often, like if I feel like inspiration is kind of like hard to come by, like I'll take a trip down to New York here because that's where I'm actually from originally, and it's crazy. Like just walking around New York and just kind of like soaking in the energy of the spot. It's just like it's really inspiring. I get back in the lab and some shit comes out of it. It's also really like I'm inspired by artists or just people in general. But like a lot of times when I'm making beats for a particular artist, I will have the artist in the studio with me actually, because it's a way for me to directly vibe off of what works and what doesn't work for them. So it's cool to be able to like sit there and like I can sort of see, I can read their facial. I actually face them while I'm producing, which is sort of an awkward thing in some ways, but in other ways it's like I'm able to like read them and see when something really like lights them up. Like the first time I heard Tupac had a huge effect on me early on, and it's funny because later I sort of ended up drifting a little more towards Biggie. But early, for whatever reason, Tupac, I was drawn to in such a big way. And I remember the first time I heard actually that the joint Changes, that was just like something about that song just resonated with what I was going through at the time. And I wasn't like, I was like a teenager, so I wasn't going through anything like crazy or like I was a young kid, but but for some reason it just resonated in a big way. And I just listened to that song like over and over and over again. And I was just mesmerized by it, and then that just kind of like, and the same thing happened with the Fugees as well. The Fugees did the same thing to me, and I just remember the early excitement of hearing these records, and then finding out like who they worked with, and going to find those artists, and just like the discovery of it all was such an amazing time in my career. And it was really the birth of my career, But it was just such a cool time to be like the whole world was open and new to me, to find all these people. So it was really cool. Like one of the groups that I discovered was Boot Camp Click, and the Duck Down label, and Rusty. I've been listening to Rusty for years before I got to work with him, and so this entire experience has been really amazing for me because I'm now getting to work with people that I listened to growing up, and that's an amazing feeling. That's a really not only validating in ways, but just like kind of, it's almost surreal, you're just like, this is crazy, like I listened to you and now I'm in a room with you and we're making music together, like that's just crazy to me. So, and like the people that he brought in on this record, like these are all people I listened to growing up, so it's like this whole process and project has been really amazing and eye-opening for me, and has kind of really lit up a huge amount of excitement for me again. At this point I pretty much do only sample-free work, and that was kind of an interesting, it was a real like choice that I made. I actually sat down one day and was like, okay, I'm gonna like stop sampling, and I've been sampling for years, and that was a pretty intimidating choice to make because I more or less did it cold turkey, and really was like, I'm gonna just really focus on only trying to make original music, but give it that authenticity that comes with the samples. That's like what hip hop was built on. So that's been a real challenge for me, and to finally hear, like this whole record I got with Jux is completely sample free, and to for cats to like, put this stuff on and just give me that validation and say, this is real, like this is a real hip hop record, and for me to know that there are no samples on it, and for me to know that doesn't matter, and I've gotten to that place. That's a real feeling of accomplishment I have, because it was for a couple years there I was like, man, I don't know about this whole thing, but it was like it's part of what has helped me kind of carve out my own sound and my own approach to this thing, and that's what this whole thing is about. It's like having your own angle and your own sound, so that people come to me for what I do. You know what I mean? And this is the way I do it. And there's a lot of benefits to it, like just on the business side of things. But it's also just it gives me a real sense of ownership over the music. I think sampling is really dope, and I have the utmost respect for cats who really chopped up samples and made samples something new, reinvented them, and really turned them into something new. But for me, it's a real feeling of being able to say, yeah, I made that completely with my own hands. Like that's all me, which is really that's a pretty awesome feeling. So I pride myself in being a producer more than, it's more than just a beat maker. I feel like, Jux was able to see this process with me, go through it where we were like really working on songs and making songs as good as they can be, as opposed to my sort of just sending out a beat and getting a song back. You know what I mean? That's like, and I'm not saying one is more valid than the other, because beat makers are totally valid, and I play that role very often with a lot of people because I can't produce everyone's record, but the ability to get into my studio and work with me in person and really trust me to try to make the best product I can, and with Jux in particular, kind of open his audience up a little bit more without alienating them, like without ditching them, So, and I think that's something we were able to do with him, and it's something I'm always trying to do, is real like the artist development side of things, and really working on making the best product, and that comes from years of playing in rock bands and being a singer-songwriter and playing pop music, and like I was obsessed with reggae. I mean, I feel like I've gone through every genre. I mean, there was years where all I listened to was, American roots music, and so it's like with all the knowledge that I have of all these other genres, I can bring them all into hip hop and really like fuse it all together and bring something new to it, and have this a very like for me, it's the musical side of things. I try to make my music really musical. You know what I mean? So it has you get a visceral reaction, but there's a lot of melody in it still, and people can sing to it. You want it to get stuck in your head. So there's like a little riff that gets caught in your head or something like that. That's what I pride myself on. So my biggest thing for me is I'm working on a lot of different projects at all different times, and they all sound different. They're all in different veins. I mean, they're all more or less hip. They're under the hip hop genre, but they're different strains of it. And what my biggest goal on a career basis is that people can see that something is produced by me and be like, I don't know what it's gonna sound like, but I know it's gonna be dope. That's my thing. Like, because I want to have such a breadth of music that spans such a wide variety, and it's just like, because I've got one artist I do sort of Southern inspired style stuff. I got another artist that's very new school. I got another artist that's all cinematic, and then another dude that's real, like, different and, like, kind of independent, like, indie rock influenced and things, and then just some regular old boom bap stuff. So the idea being, like, no matter what, I don't know what I'm going to get, but I see Arc's name on it, so I know I can trust it's going to be good. That's my goal. AR Classic Records, that's the label, and that's what I live around, that's what we're doing, so check us out by all means.